Hey guys, I'm sure you know that out there it's crazy, right? The economy is going nuts, and a lot of freelancer friends or people working in the gig economy or creatives, they're just struggling because a lot of what they're usually doing cannot carry on. So their life is being disrupted because their business is being disrupted because their finances are being disrupted. So today we're gonna dabble into some strategies that can help our freelancer friends become a little bit better in terms of their financial security. So I want to put it out there. It doesn't mean that we're going to solve your shit now, but once this thing tides through, I think some of these practices are very good practices to becoming a better freelancer, a better creative, a better gig worker. So yeah, stay tuned. Hey guys, the team at Blue Ocean Art is embarking on a blue chip art co-sharing project where you don't need a lot of capital, but you will be able to get a piece of the action in some of the leading art pieces in the market. The latest project will be spearheaded with this artist named Fang Li Jun, which has achieved auction records in the $7.5 million range. So if you're looking to diversify your portfolio, dip your toes in fine art investing, or just curious what's going on, head over to thefinancialcoconut.com/art. Link is in the description below. Good morning, everyone, and welcome you to another day with the Financial Coconut. In our podcast, we'll be debunking financial myths, discovering best financial practices, and discussing financial strategies that fits our unique life. You get it. Ultimately, empowering us to create a life we love while managing our finances well. And today, we're going to spend some time to dabble into some of these financial practices that can help you become a better freelancer. Okay, welcome. If you're a freelancer, welcome. If you're not a freelancer, also, stay tuned. And if you find this interesting and you would like to share with your freelancer, creative friends, feel free to. And yeah, I think before we begin, we got to talk a little bit about, the freelancer concept, right? Essentially, whether you call it freelancer, part-time work, gig work, project work, whatever work, it's becoming like a cluster. Right, so I'm sure within the freelancer community, there are like different stratas also. So I will not break down every single kind of freelancing work, but generally, the understanding of freelancing is that your income is very project-based, right? So you're paid project by project, and your income is relatively unstable in the sense that you got to work for it, and it's not like every month you get a certain fixed pay. And in the context of Singapore, essentially, you don't have direct input into CPF because you don't have employer contribution, and you're not kind of forced to do it because you're not like fully employed. So in other words, while you are not locked out of the CPF system, you're not organically partaking in the CPF system, such that certain huge social policies that we have may not exactly have your best interests, like HDB system, like CPF, like MediSave. I think freelancers have to pay MediSave also, because we take so much pride, and our system is built around the whole CPF social security system, that when you are not partaking it organically, you essentially get priced out a lot of these other things. So I think many of these systems are pretty good, in my view, okay? They're pretty good. I don't speak for the government. I think it's pretty good. But a lot of problems are starting to arise, because of the rise of gig worker, because of the rise of freelance job or project-based kind of work. You realize that as more and more of our citizens are going into the gig economy, essentially the social security system collapses, right? Because people are not organically partaking in the CPF, and everything is kind of joined into it. So yeah, if you are from the CPF, I know CPF has a podcast. If silently you listen to our podcast, right, I would definitely like to reach out to you to just kind of organize the sessions together for discussion. But yes, today we're not going to talk about government policy. We're just going to accept that this is the current situation, that a lot of our freelancer friends experience. And we're going to talk about some of these strategies these financial practices that can help you become better, more financially secured, and essentially become a better freelancer. And we're going to be joined by a good friend of ours, Samuel. Samuel Goh from The Left Side. So he runs a podcast called The Left Side. The last I heard, he doesn't really want to do it anymore because, some sort of motivation shift. So definitely check out his podcast, The Left Side. If you enjoy, go and book him at Samuel Goh, on Instagram. Samuel Goh, SAMUELGOH. I'm quite amazed. He must be one of the early people that use Instagram to be able to actually get the handle Samuel Goh. Nothing in front, nothing behind. So check him out. And if you enjoy what he's doing, definitely go and book him, ask him to continue his podcast, The Left Side. More importantly, I think he has been through a certain set of struggles to get to where he is in terms of becoming one of the more prominent wedding photographers in Singapore. And he's so prominent that when we asked him to introduce himself, he was like, "Oh, I very long never introduced myself already." And yes, so he's not exactly here per se, but we're going to crop some of the snippets from our Facebook Live discussion with him. Within it, there are like a lot of nuggets. And that's why we wanted to do this episode using that Facebook Live discussion. If you enjoyed today's episode and you want to go and hear the whole thing, definitely head over to our Facebook page, okay? But those are pretty unique to the creative industry, and I do not want to dabble too much today. I just want to focus on some of the more financial focused things that he talked about. Like, what does he do, to better his life in this freelance career? So what's going to happen is we're going to essentially state the point, like what we always do. We state the point, and then we'll crop in a snippet from that long form interview on our Facebook. And after that snippet, we'll come in to comment, right? I'll come in and comment. And actually, a lot of things he says, of course, I agree. I know why I crop, right? And yes, so the first financial strategy to become a better freelancer is to give yourself a pay from your business. Essentially, separating your business accounts and your personal accounts. And I think a lot of freelancers do this. Everything put into one account, right? And this is what Samuel has to say.
But I will say a lot of creatives, we don't come from financial background. So we just like to do what we do. So because of that, we run into a lot of cash flow problems as well. So for myself, for the most part of my earlier years, I was just in and out through my personal account. So every client, the deposit is into my personal account. The money I spend on food, on holidays, on my movies, equipment is all from the same account. And some months there are no jobs, some months there are more jobs. So I never know when the money is going to come in, when am I going to run out of money. So those were my challenges earlier on.
I honestly think that it's most people's challenges. A lot of freelancers will face this challenge. And why do I agree that you should separate your business accounts from your personal accounts? There are a few reasons. One is you can separate your identity, right? I think a lot of times when everything is lumped into one account, or all your finances are lumped together, you cannot see yourself separate from your business. Because the truth be told is you can be very skilled, but your business can suck. Right? And if you're very good at what you're doing, let's say you're a photographer in the context of Sam, you're very good at what you're doing, but your business is just not working. But if you put everything together, if all the finances clump together, you cannot tell that, hey, actually, my business is not working, I'm pretty good at what I do. And if I take the same skill set and sell it to someone else, I mean, I work for someone else, then actually, hey, I can do fine and maybe not so stressed, don't need to hustle for jobs and everything, and I can still make very decent income or maybe even more. On top of that, I also believe that when you put everything together, you become very emotional about your business, right? Because objectively, your business is your income, is your life. Then, of course, you will be very emotional about your business because it is your life. But if you can separate out your finances and see it separately, right? Essentially, your business that you created and your skill set, you as an individual are separate things. You become less emotional about it. You become a lot more accurate and objective about your business. How do you actually scale the business? Or if say certain parts are not working out, then you can cut it. And yes, I do see freelancing as kind of like a personal small business where rather than working for someone else, you set up a business of your own and you work for yourself, right? So to me, that is kind of where it is. And yeah, I know for some people, you have not even set up like a sole proprietorship or like your own private limited, a business entity essentially. So you don't exactly have a business account, but you can always set up another personal account to, have all the cash flow and manage that personal account as your business account, right? So my view is when you have that kind of separation, you have much more clarity and you pay yourself, you have that kind of income stability to be able to then plan for your own personal finance while you plan for the business's finance, right? They need to be separated. So you become clearer of what is working and what is not, rather than clump everything together. My life is jalat, So I think a lot of freelancers struggle with this. I definitely hope that you can separate it out. And the second point to become a better, financially stronger freelancer is that you may need to have 2 times more savings than others, right? Just because relative to others, you naturally do not experience the same stability lah, right? So I've been on both sides. I'm going to share with you my experience after a word from our sponsor. Hey guys, I know sometimes, you just want to support a friend and somehow you end up buying too much savings plans, endowment plans, and you are suffocating as a result. I would love to introduce you to Ethan and his team at PolicyWalk. They help you break down the numbers, examine your options, and even take over the policies that you don't want anymore at 10% above surrender value. So check them out at policywalk.com/thefinancialcoconut. Link is in the description below. Okay, I think Samuel is a bit kiasu lah, huh? He really saved like 24 months, and I'm gonna let him share with you why he did what he did, okay?
I know people typically recommend 6 months, but being in my line of work, I was actually more comfortable with 24 months. Yeah. So I was
just want to clarify. So 24 months. You mentioned you take out 2,500 a month, or that was your salary that you gave. Does that mean you were saving up 2,500 times 24, or is that like, are you just talking about your own expenses?
Yeah, well, actually, because I was always thinking in terms of me and my wife. So if our yearly expenses is about 60, 70,000, I'm comfortable having twice of that. Yeah. A lot of people are saying 6 months, but I always kind of imagine the worst case scenario. And I guess now it's really the worst case scenario, where if this drags on long term, it could be 1 or 2 years. And 6 months, I don't know if you can survive on 6 months. So I always thought I would need 24 months. So I have that 24 months. So even right now when things are rough, I can still continue drawing on that salary. And I guess when times are good, sucking away a lot of money into like CPF, into Singapore savings bonds, fixed deposits, dividend stocks. So even though now the dividend is cut, the bonds are still giving me that income. So in a sense, it's not that much, but it still helped me to maintain my lifestyle. So I'm not too worried yet.
And rightfully so. I mean, Samuel saved like 24 months worth of expenses, right? So, and in his words, essentially, this is probably one of the craziest times already because business essentially stalled. You can't do anything. But also opportunities will arise and people start to see new ways of presenting their own skill sets, right? Which is essentially playing on the first point, which is why you should separate your business accounts and your personal accounts, because the reality is the business environment can change, but your skill sets are the same, right? So how do you reapply that to a different business climate and then kind of grow there? But on this point of having more savings than others, I think this is pretty inevitable because from my personal experience, when I wasn't holding on to a job, right, when I was very much living on my own, income in terms of like my investment income and just kind of side gigs here and there, I actually do feel a little bit more jittery because of the lack of stability. Of course, at that point in time, I had a lot of misconceptions about owning a job. Right? Like, 我不要 work for other people's dream. That kind of things that people say. But the reality is it is a lot more complex than that. And we can talk about it in another podcast. We probably have talked about it in some of the earlier podcasts about paychecks and whatnot. But because of the lack of like stable cash flow, I always felt very jittery and generally unable to plan too far. Right, because I don't have my baselines covered essentially, right? I gotta try to like keep my expenses low, always be lean, and just see what kind of jobs come and whatnot. But once I gotten that basic, so I only saved 12 months to be exact, right? Which is also a little bit more than what other people are already recommending. But 12 months gave me a lot more stability because I know that whatever shit happens, I have a year to back me up, right? And I have a year to sort out my shit essentially. And that gave me a lot more confidence in pursuing different kind of presentation of my craft or different kind of ventures out there, right? So to me, I think there's a lot of benefit, in savings, and we've talked about it extensively, but in the focus of freelancers, right? Freelancers inevitably will have to have more savings because you want to ride out, or from that kind of instability in your income, because you experience income surges. Some months you have a lot more, some months you have a lot less, and inevitably to maintain a certain lifestyle, you have to draw down your savings pretty periodically. Unlike other people, which is holding a job that have a stable income, that savings is really sitting there only during emergency, right? But for a lot of freelancers, I think savings are being drawn down periodically. Right, so you draw it down during bad months and you pump it back up during good months. So you also want that security in terms of the emergency side of things. But periodically, since we draw down our savings during the low months, then we should probably save up a bigger chunk so that we can ride through these kind of waves, right? So Samuel says 24 months. I think at least 12 months, right? And the third point is, I think you should focus more on your craft rather than trying too hard to invest. Okay, so I will substantiate my point after we listen to Samuel.
I guess there's so many school of thoughts in terms of like investing, right? And it really depends on your personality and I guess your expertise as well and what you're comfortable with. So I dabbled a little bit in active investing in 2016. So I just put a little bit in some blue chips here and there. But then I put in some other stocks as well, Singapore stocks, and I got burned as well. So that made me realize that I'm not that good at valuation and evaluating whether this company is this price really good? What's the forecast? What's going to happen? So I realized that I'm not really good at that, because I'm too busy running my business. I don't have the time to study into that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'd rather be focusing the time on my business, building networks, and I guess just keeping the cash flow going. So I think it was sometime last January, I read a book by, I think it's a guy called Joshua Gersh or something. And he has a book called Rich by Retirement. So he covered a range of topics like CPF, savings, and was that his investment style is the 3 index fund. So like 1 home index, 1 home bond, and 1 international index. So I started investing that way in 2019. So I started January 2019. After that, there was another crash. I have no idea why, but markets are down. I started then.
I think 20% in the end of 2018. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I started then. But over the year, it grew quite a fair bit. The later part of the year, I was getting a bit uncomfortable because the prices were so high. And now the market is down 20-30%. But I'm still following the same investment, method, because when I first started, I kind of spread out the funds that I have and the funds that I have coming in. I spread it out into a 5-year investment period. And I guess my take was because I'm not that good at timing the market, and I'm not sure if there is going to be a market crash in the next 5 years. So if I can stretch out my DCA in 5-year period, I can potentially ride out the highs and the lows.
I think in that short few minutes, right, Samuel has covered a lot of things, like, trying to pick stocks and understanding that it's a lot more complex than what he thinks it is. Things about DCA, things about, trickling into, your investments, and even reading books, right? Rich by Retirement. Okay, I have not read the book, but a lot of people are telling me that's a good book. So I'll go and read it and I'll share with you guys my thoughts. And infer how you would like to infer based on what he says, and pick up different tips based on what he has shared, But in my view, how I see it is, I think a lot of freelancers, in the first place, why we do what we do is because we enjoy, the craft. We enjoy what we are doing, whether is it theater or whether is it, even, being a financial planner. I think there's a certain level of enjoyment in terms of planning people's finances. And of course, I don't discount the whole idea of income potential when choosing freelance jobs. And I also don't discount the fact that there are many people out there today that are underemployed and partaking in freelance jobs like Grab driver or like delivery kind of thing, because they just cannot find other jobs that they will be more vested in. I don't discount that fact. We can talk about all these other things about underemployment and all in another podcast. All right, but if let's say you are choosing this freelance jobs, this freelance career because you want to do it, because you enjoy it, and you want to change, you want to pursue that craft in a way where you deem fit, right? Which is how a lot of freelancers kind of started. Then I feel that you should focus on your craft rather than spend too much time thinking of how to invest. And when I talk to a lot of my freelancer friends, many of them are interested to invest because I think they do recognize the reality of, the income instability and the lack of participation in CPF or these kind of stuff. So whatever strategy you choose to adopt, my central idea is that you should focus on upgrading your craft first and, networking and building your business. Because in my view is there is more upward potential in you becoming better in a freelance setting rather than in a job setting, right? Because in a job setting, you're expected, right? I've said this before, you're expected to work. And even if you are better at what you do, you don't get promoted, you are still paid the same. All right, so it is good to continue to be better at what you do, whether or not you are paid more. But in a freelance setting, as long as you are better and you can command a higher price, you can get more business, your projection in terms of your kind of income potential, it's much higher than being in a job setting. Of course, I'm not saying it's easy, but you kind of see what I'm saying, right? In terms of you becoming better in your craft in a freelance setting has more upward kind of incentive, income incentive compared to being better at your craft when you're in a job setting. So I do recommend that for most freelancers to focus on your craft more than trying to learn how to invest and everything. And I think it's in the blood of being a freelancer that many of them like to do on their own, right? And learn new things and do on their own and pick up investing and all. But truth be told, investing is not as simple. It's also quite a freelance job, right? You need to pick up a whole new set of skill set to do it, right? So it's a lot more complex. And I'm not saying that you cannot learn to pick stocks, you cannot learn how to invest and whatnot, but outsourcing that part in the early stages or working with like robos or doing simple kind of investment strategies will probably serve you better in your early days as a freelancer while you build your career and build your, establish yourself in the space of whatever you're trying to do. Don't need to sweat it about investing. Okay, so I think that's all for this week's episode. I'm going to sum it up today with number one, you got to give yourself a pay from your own business, right? Essentially separate your business accounts and your personal accounts so that you have a lot more clarity as to what is working in your business and what is it that you need to improve in your personal life. You don't want to mix everything together and champur and be in a mess. Number two is you probably have to have 2 times more savings than others just because of the reality of your income, that it is not consistent and you periodically draw down your savings. So you want a bit more float, to cover the emergency and also cover that periodic kind of income surges and depression. Okay, number 3 is that you want to focus on your craft rather than investing, when you're just starting, because I think there's a lot more upward kind of income potential, when you're focusing on your craft in the early days rather than spending too much time, thinking of how to invest while building your craft. And spend more time with your craft, it is fine. You can always outsource the investment portion. So I hope you learned something useful today. See ya. Hey, I hope you learned something useful today and truly appreciate that you took time off to better your life with the Financial Coconut. Knowledge is that much more powerful and interesting when shared, debated, and discussed. I hope you'd share what you've gained with people you love, and I want to hear from you. Give me some questions and help me along with building a community of financially savvy coconuts. I hope together we can fulfill our curious minds and our desire for clarity. Join our community Telegram group, reach out to us on Facebook, everything is in the description below. And if you enjoy the podcast and want to keep us growing and stay independent, do buy us Kopi at Ko-fi.com. With that, have a great day ahead, stay tuned next week, and always remember, personal finance can be chill, clear, and sustainable for all. Test. Okay, I hope you learned something useful. I'm sure many people have different ways of managing their personal finance, especially in a freelance setting, because it's a lot more open-ended, right? You don't follow the narrative. You don't have CPF. You don't have like a fixed income. You don't have like a medium income per se. So yeah, it's a lot more free-form. But I personally feel that these are some of the main things that you can consider inputting into your finances. so that you can be essentially a better freelancer and pursue what you enjoy and pursue what you want to pursue, while keeping your finances in check, right? So once again, there's no right or wrong. If you have any other interesting points, do reach out to us and let us know if you enjoy something like that, right? Where we crop other clips into, comment and add on to it. I think it's a pretty fun thing to do, and we'll probably do a few more on this kind of structure, because we have done quite a few, Facebook Live, and I thought it was fun. So, but it's very long-winded, a lot of blabber in between. So we want to kind of decipher, squeeze out all the good juice and put them together into an episode. Yes. And for next week's episode, we're going to spend some time with Maureen. If you don't know who is Maureen Lee, you can go and check out her Facebook page, Maureen Lee, Maureen. Yeah. Right. So Maureen Lee, like Lee Li, she is a property developer, a small-time property developer, not those huge ass ones, but they mainly focus on property revamp, property those shop house, right? And then very lock already, they buy a few property together and then they build and upgrade a whole new set, and also a lot of more property uplifting. And I got her to come on the show to share with us her property experience and how does she see some of these property myths that are being peddled out there, things like sell one buy two, or things like property no money down and those kind of stuff, right? So we're gonna hear from her to share with us some her views of the current property market and how young people can then enter the property market. All right, so that'll be fun. That'll be next week, and I hope you learned something, right? Do continue to share, give us some questions, join our Telegram group discussion lah. Okay, see ya next week. Bye.